How many windows could a Windows Window Manager tile if a Windows Window Manager could tile windows? A lot. There's a lot of Linux maximalism on the internet, especially on Reddit, and it's pretty easy to get caught up into it. But I think that any aspiring systems administrator should be familiar with all 4 major operating systems: Linux, macOS, BSD, and ones that run kernel-level anti-cheat systems. Now, I for one have recently quit League of Legends.
Okay, so I'm a Riot Games hostage. Sue me. But as long as I'm on this operating system, at least part of the time, because who's not dual booting, there are a couple of things that we can do to make our Windows 11 experience actually pretty good. The truth is, if you want one operating system to do everything, you're a creative that uses the Adobe suite, you're a gamer playing games with anti-cheat systems, and you want to do some development, admittedly probably through WSL, Windows does do it all, and fairly well. In some cases, it's the only operating system that does it all. And you could tell me the usual Linux argument that you could find an alternative, and believe me, I'm all for screwing Adobe. But not everyone has that luxury. And in those cases, the situation calls for Windows. Unfortunately, Windows comes with 2 irredeemable flaws. One, it's full of spyware, bloat, and crap that I have to remove myself. And 2, ironically, Windows has the worst window management I've ever seen. Lucky for us, with a little help from some incredible open source contributors, and shockingly Microsoft itself, you can turn Windows into a very usable, debloated, minimal-ish operating system with a fantastic tiling window management experience. With a couple of help from our friends in the form of Chris Titus Tech's WinUtil, we're going to debloat and create a nice clean slate of version of Windows 11. And with Glaze Window Manager, we can set up an i3-like tiling window management experience with next to no hassle. It's honestly incredible how easy it is with Glaze. So shout out to those guys for creating a fantastic open source project. Before we get into tiling and fancy features like that, we need a nice clean slate to work from. Now, unless you consider TikTok and Candy Crush part of a minimal clean Windows 11 install, Windows 11 doesn't give you that by default. Luckily, Chris Titus Tech's WinUtil gives us a way to build a MicroWin ISO, which is Windows 11 without the cruft, and then we can build off of that. So let's take a look at how we do that. Here we're on the WinUtil GitHub page, which you can find at github.com/ChrisTitusTech/WinUtil. I could take the time to go through all of this fantastic documentation, but instead, I'm going to leave that to the much better equipped person, Chris himself, and you can take a look at his YouTube video. Instead, we're going to take a brief look through how this tool works and what I did with it, which wasn't much. It's really well built to be kind of plug and play. If we scroll down here, we've got the launch command. I'm going to copy paste that, pop open a terminal, and paste it. And without too much waiting, we've got it. All right. Now I'm going to pop this over to another virtual desktop so we can see it in full screen. I'm going to go through a couple of the features that I made use of, and then we're going to look at the MicroWin ISO setup process. Whew, we got there. WinUtil equips us with a couple of great tools for setting up a new Windows 11 system. I don't know about you, but every time I set up a Windows system, I go downloading the exact same installers off of a series of different websites, and it's just kind of an arduous pain in the ass. The Install tab on WinUtil gives you a way to install tons of applications quickly and easily through Winget. All you got to do is tick them and then hit install. It's that easy. Nice. On the tweaks page, there's a couple of template setups. I chose standard, which does a couple of things to make your system a little bit more stable and reliable, makes it easier to administrate that system in your home network, and cleans out some of that spyware and telemetry stuff that you're not going to want to make use of anyways. Once you're done picking your setup, and again, standard is fantastic and you can run that without thought, your system is going to be just fine. You just hit run tweaks and you're done. One thing I will mention for the gamers is please do yourself a favor and turn off mouse acceleration. Next up in the config tab, we've got a bunch of features that are common for developers and power users. Things like the .NET framework, Hyper-V, the network file system, which I didn't even know you could run NFS on Windows. Maybe I won't set up Samba. I'll probably still set up Samba. And of course, WSL. So we can tick all of those and install features and they're just ready to go. We all know one of the pitfalls of Windows is that updates have a mind of their own. And it feels like that mind is there to sabotage you just before big presentations, assignments are due, and God knows what else you're up to that's important. Your Windows system will probably update just in time to screw you over. So I make use of the security option here, which delays feature updates for as long as you want, but make sure that you still get your security updates on time. Now on to my favorite part of WinUtil, the MicroWin setup tool. All of the stuff we talked about, the install, the tweaks, the configs, and the updates, happen after you've already set up that clean slate MicroWin ISO and installed it on a new system. So let's talk about how we actually do that. We have two options for getting started. We can download a Windows 11 ISO ourselves, or we can just let the tool handle it for us. Then we just hit Get Windows ISO. We tell it where we want to put it. Don't put it on your desktop like I'm about to do. Once your Windows ISO has finished downloading, just click Get Windows ISO, go find wherever it is. In my case, it's in my Downloads folder, and hit Open. This will take a little bit of time, and it can look like the Windows util has failed, but if you pop over to the PowerShell screen, or shell, or terminal, whatever you want to call it, you'll see it's still chugging away. It just takes a little bit of time. And after about 5 to 10 minutes, you've got your MicroWin 11 ISO ready to go. Once the WinUtil spits out that MicroWin ISO, I recommend you get one of these USB thumb drives, whichever one you want off of Amazon. Get at least 16 gigabytes, but they're pretty cheap these days. Throw Ventoy on it, which is a fantastic tool that lets you load these up with as many ISOs as you want, plug it into your machine, and go about the standard Windows 11 install process, but with less of the hassle.
Editor Nathan here. When I said less hassle, I didn't know just how much less hassle.
What I wanted to do in this portion of the video is do a side-by-side comparison of the install process of Windows 11 and the MicroWin ISO. And what I found was rage. Are you serious? Why is that not the default? How many times are you going to ask me for my data? I'm going to walk away for my own mental health. Confusion. What does this even do? Kind of hanging at a blank screen right now. What am I waiting for now? So many updates. Looks like Windows 11 is going to need another restart. We get another reboot. Still more just a moments. We'll just wait a little bit more. And a clear winner, MicroWin. This was supposed to be a fun game where we compare MicroWin and Windows 11, but now I'm just angry. In the end, the Windows 11 VM didn't work. I hung at that login screen without a login prompt indefinitely. I did, however, get a working Windows 11 dev environment VM, and that served the purpose of doing a comparison. I think the real point to drive home here, though, is that MicroWin installed in 5 minutes without asking me for my data. It let me use a local account. The updates were baked in and ready to go. And again, I was done in 5 minutes. I think Windows 11, if you count the hanging login screen, took me like an hour. You can actually watch in the video the sun go down in the background. Anyway, here's the comparison I did manage to do. Turns out Hyper-V includes a development environment VM template, and I've got that running over here on the right with both of these having Task Manager open. So on the left, again in MicroWin, you can see we've got an average number of background processes of 23, with 53% of the memory used. Recall, this system only has 4 gigabytes of memory. 53%, this thing's running at 2 gigs, that's not bad. It's not Linux running 300 megabytes. But for Windows, I mean, let's give it up for MicroWin. On the right here, we have our development environment, and it's taken up 66%, so quite a bit more. And we're running an average 32 background processes. So again, significantly more running going on in the background. And I would just like to note the interface is so much more cluttered with stuff. We've got Copilot over here on the side. It's warning us OneDrive isn't running right now. We've got additional icons for software like chat. What is chat? Chat? The weather comes jam-packed with all sorts of crap that nobody needs on their operating system. A rotating list of news articles designed to make your blood boil, as well as sports updates, because systems administrators canonically love sports. Cool. Now that we've seen the absolute miracles that WinUtil performs on the Windows experience, making it so much cleaner and completely avoiding infuriating ads in the install process. Windows 11 install process, we can get onto the goodies of tiling and stuff like that. To me, the tiling window management experience is actually a keyboard-driven desktop environment composed of 5 different UX components. And those are, of course, 1, automatic tiling, obviously. 2, some sort of competent app runner that lets you launch applications in a keyboard-driven way. 3, virtual desktops and workspaces so that you can group tiles and windows together in a meaningful way for you. 4, hotkey management for keyboard-driven workflow stuff. 5, a status bar so that you can flex on people on r/Unix porn. I'm not funny. I'm not funny, but I think I'm funny. For this section, I was just going to show you some of these applications, but many of them are so easy to install and get running, I figured I'd just walk through the tutorial on the virtual machine that we set up previously. We'll start things off with step 1, which is getting tiling window management running in the first place. There's a couple ways we can do this. I've seen 2 open source Windows tiling window managers. They are Komorebi and Glaze Window Manager. Glaze Window Manager. Nailed it. I'm currently using Glaze on my actual desktop, and so we're going to install that because it was like absurdly easy. I mean, seriously easy. So here we are. We just search up Glaze Window Manager on whatever your preferred search engine is. We're on their GitHub page, and their install process is about this easy. So we're going to open up Terminal. It'll bring us to PowerShell, and we're going to Control V that. I guess Winget is pre-installed these days. Do you agree to all the source agreements and terms? Yeah, why not? We're downloading. Microsoft is not responsible. Oh, well, that never bothered me. We go through the installation process. We hit yes a couple of times. Oh, it creates a system restore point for us. How very responsible of them, unlike Microsoft. Okay, and just like that, Glaze Window Manager is installed along with number 5 of our UX components, a status bar, in this case Zebar. So what we're going to do is just launch Glaze. See that? And it just starts tiling. It just starts tiling. It's too easy. If you want to switch, which direction the new window will populate, we can do that. Boom. I mean, just like that. So we can start poking around the configuration file. I'm just going to install NeoVim on here. NeoVim works. From there, I can go into the .glzr directory. We're going to go into Glaze, and we can take a look at the config YAML. And you can see it's got all the usual goodies. You can set inner gaps with pixels. This is very i3 window management-like configuration file. You can turn on and off different window effects, different behaviors. You got different workspaces. The second UX component what is this? What is this? I'm Nixon? The second component that we want is a competent app runner. And shockingly, we don't need to go to open source for that. We can go directly to Microsoft. Microsoft has released a fantastic set of tools that they call PowerToys, which sounds kind of sketchy. We're going to open that up. We're going to grab this winget install option, Control V that into place. It goes through the usual download notifications. Actually, a very, very aesthetically pleasing status bar for that download. I mean, it's in the details. PowerToys finished installing. Looks like it launches by default. Takes a couple seconds, but hey, I'm not going to knock it for being a little slow. And we're going to move that over to Virtual Desktop 2. Again, Glaze is just working like a dream. Like, shockingly good. Down towards the bottom of PowerToys is PowerToys Run. This is the runner that I'm going to be using for this setup because honestly, it's pretty good. Now, by default, it uses Alt-Space as its launcher. I'm kind of used to the Rofi D menu kind of thing. So if you hit Open Settings, you can change the activation shortcut to whatever you want. I've got an Alt plus D. That works better for me. And as you can see, there you go. You got a runner. I can launch Discord, which I've installed on this machine, League of Legends, whatever the heck I want. And it's just a runner. It's serviceable. It's not bad at all. Ingredient number 3 of our tiling window management experience is virtual desktops. Now, Windows by default actually has a pretty decent setup for virtual desktops. If you right-click on the taskbar down here, you go to Settings, you can turn on Task View, and this will show you can create a number of different virtual desktops. I've got desktop 1 over here. Let's go ahead and make 2. I can go make 3. Why not? And now I can pan between them. That's not bad, but Glaze, once again, sets you up with virtual desktops in a hotkeyable manner that I just like way better. So if we look at Zebar, the status bar that comes pre-packaged with Glaze along the top, you can see I've already got my 2 virtual desktops. I can hit Alt-1 to navigate back there, Alt-2, 3, 4, 5, as many as I like. I can move applications between them, right? And it's everything you need, ready to go. I mean, it is absolutely shocking to me how good and easy it is to use Glaze Window Manager if you have experience using i3-like tiling window managers. The last ingredient in our list of ingredients for a good tiling window management experience is hotkeying. Now, Glaze has gone a long way to get most of that functionality for you, but I don't think, as far as I know, and I would happily be corrected, is it doesn't have it doesn't have ways to launch specific applications built into the Glaze config file. And so for that, we use AutoHotkey, which is also not too bad. Okay, admittedly, this is the most complex part of the setup. If you're happy with this, you can just launch your applications through the runner and have the majority of your experience pretty good. For me, though, I need to be able to launch my terminals with a quick super T. That's just, I don't know, it's like a tick at this point. I just need to be able to do that. Same with my browser, that's super E for me. So we're gonna download AutoHotkey. Yeah, let's do version 2.0. Why am I picking deprecated? No way. Go about the usual Windows install experience. Here, we can create a new script. We're gonna call that terminal, because that's what I want this one to do. We're gonna create it. It'll bring us to the location of that script. I'm gonna open this with good old-fashioned Notepad. So here's the AutoKey script syntax. It can be a little confusing, but essentially what this means, this exclamation mark points to the Alt key. We're using Alt for just about everything here, and T is the character we're doing. And then we just give it the run windows terminal.exe. I'm gonna save our terminal script, just like that. Now that we've got our terminal hotkey script, we need a way to keep this running in the background. It kind of like polls and waits for a specific hotkey, and it sort of lives down here as an active application. So I want this to launch on startup, just like I want Glaze to launch on startup. And to do that, we've got some Windowsisms to deal with. We're gonna do, I think it's shell:startup. I remembered. Let's go. And then what I'm going to do is create a shortcut to this script and drop it in the startup. I'm also going to do that with Glaze. We've got Glaze Window Manager. I'm going to, again, create a shortcut. It says it can't create it there, but it can create it on my desktop. I'm gonna move that here. Okay, so now we've populated our startup. Glaze and this AutoHotkey script will launch on startup, which gives you tiling as soon as you log in, as well as constantly polling for that Alt-T combo to launch your terminal. So we're gonna restart our VM here and give that a shot. Okay, so it's not the fastest thing in the world, but you can see we've got Glaze running along with its companion Zebar. And if we open up our background processes, you can see PowerToys is running, so we can launch our runner. We've also got this hotkey script running in the background, so if I hit Alt-T, had to do a quick adjustment here. It turns out Alt-T by default is taken by Glaze. I'm just going to comment this out. You may want to be able to toggle tiling. In that case, just switch the hotkeys. Reload config. So now, haha, just like that. A little Alt-T action, and you've got your terminal, and you can make as many of those as you like. We can go vertical on those suckers. We can go back to horizontal, whatever you want. It's tiling on Windows. Genuinely excited about this. The last part would have been the status bar, but as you've seen, Zebar is already pre-packaged with Glaze Window Manager, so you're good to go. So what did we learn through this process? We learned that the Windows 11 installer is the devil himself. I have to solve a puzzle before I can install Windows 11.
You've proven you're a human.
Glad that Microsoft feels comfortable in the state of my humanity. We learned that MicroWin is a miracle tool. And we learned that setting up tiling window management on Windows is actually shockingly easy. Glaze is fantastic. The PowerToys Run is a pretty good app runner. Zebar comes pre-installed. And AutoHotkey, while being syntactically a little bit weird, works like a charm. I think I also learned that Windows itself isn't actually that bad. If you want an operating system that does it all, Windows is a good option especially if you go through the MicroWin process to like kind of dig the good parts of Windows out from all of the garbage that Microsoft has piled on top of it. It's also the only operating system that lets me run kernel-level anti-cheat software so I can continue to play a game that's kept me hostage since I was 13 years old.